Hey, how's it going, guys? Ricky Summer here, and today I've come back in time to talk about Night City Wire, Episode 2. But first, a message from our sponsor.
Come for the opportunities. Stay for the culture. Bay City.
Alright, so today, no reaction video. I've watched through it, I've taken notes. There are a couple things that I want to touch on here. Customization. There's lots of hints towards customization in this particular episode. I'm very excited to talk about it. They also started off with some Lifepath stuff, which of course plays into the whole, RPG elements and how much you can assert your character onto the game world, for lack of a better way to put it. So I'm much more enthusiastic about this episode as opposed to the last episode. But if you want to check that out, there'll be a card up on the screen there. Let's get into it.
Visible excitement.
So first up, they talked about life paths. So of course we already know we've got 3 different life paths, which are like origins. There's starting areas and starting, like templates or origins. Origins is the best way to put it, really. And we know they change how you start the game. So starting location and intro quest, I'm expecting these to function very similarly to the origins from like Dragon Age Origins, for example. We've seen this sort of thing before, and previously my biggest concern with this was that they would be front loaded. You'd have this intro section that was tailored to your life path, your origin, and it would be really compelling and bombastic and probably quite scripted. You'd play through it once, you'd be like, whoa, you'd be pogging up, and then you play through it again and you realize, oh wait, this is very scripted. It could still be like that, and I was concerned that that would be like the maximum extent of the influence that your life path has on the game. And again, it could still be like that. We don't know until we actually play the game. But they've specifically said that you will have options in quests depending on your life path, and not necessarily, this is what I found interesting, not necessarily in the same spot. So the example they gave, what was it? It was some...
enable you to do a completely different thing with the Maelstrom gang.
The example they gave was a quest with the Maelstrom gang, and having a different life path might give you access to information that you wouldn't normally have. So it gives you more ammunition in a conversation. In this particular instance, I think it gives you a different dialogue option, which is the sort of thing we've seen before. I'm pretty sure Dragon Age Origins had that sort, like surely it did. It's been a hot minute since I played, but I'm pretty sure you had specific dialogue options depending on your origin. So, we've seen that sort of thing before. But they also mentioned as an extension of this quest example that it wouldn't necessarily be like, this is the part of the quest where we give you your life path choice. So they suggested that with this particular quest, at this point you would have either like a corpo choice or a nomad choice, but the street kid choice would come at a different part of the quest. That's interesting. I like that. It's a little less... it's still scripted, right? It is, but it feels less mechanical, It seems like they've put thought into where does it make sense to have a specific life path choice, and they've applied them appropriately. Again, we haven't played the game yet, so this is all still like taking their word for it, but that's exciting, that gives me hope that this is not going to be like a one and done, hey, I'm going nomad, and then you're done with the intro quest, and it's like, well, am I still a nomad? Do I feel like a nomad still? Am I making nomad choices? So it seems like maybe they are taking that into account, and our life path will be relevant throughout the game. I hope. Something else I noticed, and I doubt that they're actually like enforcing specific play styles on you depending on your life path, but I think there might be some leanings towards different playstyles depending on your life path. What I noticed looking at the footage was it seemed like Street Kid was guns. He was the gun boy. Nomad was about cars, and a corpo was maybe a speech hacking kind of guy. Now again, I don't expect that they're going to force you to be a hacking speech guy if you go corpo. I think it's probably just a thematic thing that they've applied to the footage. I hope that you can be like a guns blazing corpo, or a sneaky hacker speech nomad or whatever. Again, we don't know, but I suspect that will be the case. To expand on the apparent themes of these life paths, it seemed that the street kids are going to have underworld connections. The nomads are very clan, family focused, which I think is an interesting take. I'm tempted to go nomad for my first playthrough just to see what that's about. And then corpos are going to be able to read people better. I think these are just things that are going to play into the dialogue and quest options that we'll have based on our life path. All right, then they brought up the Badlands again. The more I hear about these Badlands, the more excited I am about them. And they really do feel like what I'd come up with for the story for my albums. The whole outside of Bay City, which is like a free port haven. Outside of that, it's all devastation and desert and constant wars and whatnot. It's a very similar vibe here, and I'm very much jiving on it. So they did mention that the Badlands are extra dangerous, and you can go whenever you want. It almost feels like it's like a challenge area. Maybe I'm just reading too much into it, projecting my own desires onto the game here, but they did suggest that there would be quests in the Badlands, so maybe it's just like seamlessly integrated into the world. I'm sure it will be. But yeah, they also suggested that maybe it's somewhere you go if you want to test your mettle. I'm excited to check that out. All right, fixes. They talked about fixes. So fixes are like problem solvers. They're like, you got a problem, you go to a fixer and they'll get the appropriate guy. Like they're the guys that have a guy, that know a guy that knows a guy, you know. So you'll work for fixes, it seems. Whether you'll actually use the services of fixers, I don't know. They've named 2 fixers as of yet, I believe. Dexter, who's that large man with I think the golden arms, and Padre, who's a new guy. So they seem like high-level quest givers. They also suggested that certain fixers might have connections to certain life paths, but that wouldn't necessarily like gate them off if you didn't choose that particular life path. The example they gave was Padre. I think they said he had a connection to the Street Kid life path, but if you didn't choose Street Kid, that you could still meet him anyway. That's interesting. I kind of like that, because then it's almost like you got a home team, right? You know, you come from the streets, so your fixer is this guy. You can switch teams later on. You can work for a different fixer, but you know, that's like your guy. If that's how it works, I kind of like that, because that gives you a little bit of it makes you feel invested in certain quest givers, because normally quest givers are like just pieces of cardboard, right? But anything that gets me invested in a quest giver and makes me actually care about the jobs I'm doing for them, hey, I'm all for it. You know, I want to complete quests, not just for the loot or the cash or the experience. I want to do it because, not even just to find out what happens, but I want to do it because I want to see the quest giver succeed. If that's how it works, look, sign me up, baby. I'm excited. They also talked about the music, which I found really interesting, specifically from the angle of like a musician playing another musician. I believe the singer's name was Dennis. The band's called Refused. I hadn't heard of them. Swedish punk rock, apparently. So maybe I'll check them out now. But yeah, what Dennis was talking about, I feel for the guy. I do. That's a concept I never really thought of before. As a musician, having to play another musician, because they're a band with their own sound. And music is really personal, unless you're composing something specific for someone. And then I feel like oftentimes people will hire you based on what you've done in the past anyway. So I'm creating like synth retro sort of stuff. So when people commission me to write something for them, it's usually within that genre, right? And that's the case here too, but the singer also has to adjust his voice to sound like Johnny Silverhand. And I feel for the guy. That would be difficult, you know? As a singing teacher, I advocate singing in your own voice. You know, I get students all the time, particularly the younger ones, who want to sound like Beyonce or whatever, and some of them even come in singing with accents that are not their own. I'm always advocating that they find their own voice and they sing the way only they can, because that's what's so unique and magnificent about singing. It's your own personal instrument that no one else has. It's unique to you. That's why I love it, and that's why I love teaching it. So this is a particular challenge for Dennis, who seems like isn't used to singing like other people. So look, I'm gonna check out their stuff now, just because he's being such a goddamn trooper. I hope you all have a greater appreciation for Dennis now. Okay, let's talk about weapons. So the first thing I noted down when they showed that new gameplay footage was weapon customization, ? The way they were splitting up the guns made it look like, hey, can you switch different parts out and maybe create your own weapon? Maybe. I think I might have jumped the gun there a little bit. There is weapon customization, but we'll get to that in a second. So what I really liked was there are 3 different types of weapons, and this feels like almost an elemental system, like an elemental magic system, or it feels very RPG-esque, but in a way that I think makes sense. Okay, so we've got power weapons, tech weapons, and smart weapons. Power weapons, they said, are the most like contemporary weapons, so what we would be familiar with in the current real world, but they can ricochet bullets to hit targets behind cover. Okay, that's pretty cool. At this point, I'm like, okay, interesting idea, let's keep going. Tech weapons. They use electromagnetic power to propel metal projectiles and can punch through cover. These are railguns. We're talking about railguns. Cyberpunk 2077 has railguns. Your boy's pogging out of his gourd right now. Listen, look, low-key, you know that I've got an unhealthy obsession with maces, you know, the medieval weapon, the mace. Railguns are just sci-fi maces. Tell me I'm wrong. Go ahead, I dare you. So at this point, I'm like the second last stage in the Vince McMahon meme. Lastly, we've got smart weapons, which use guided missile technology and can hit targets from, you know, around cover and whatnot. So at this point, I get it. Each weapon type has its own way to bypass cover, which is, look, listen, that's very cool. So I'm already seeing like specific playstyles coming from this. They mentioned it a couple times and they seem to focus mostly on like sniper rifles for the tech weapons, the railguns, right? So the railgun strat seems to be like, let's just punch through and hit directly. So when we're hitting enemies that don't necessarily know we're even there yet. Oh, I'm pogged out of my freaking gourd. Smart weapons, you know, you can lock onto multiple targets, I think they said, so you can just dive in there and hit everything. And power weapons, it seemed like maybe the brawler's weapon, you know, you're in there, you're being tactical. Maybe it's more like a tactical thing, yeah, because then like they're hiding behind cover and you're around the corner and whatnot. Anyway, I really like that. Like I said, it feels like an elemental magic sort of rock, paper, scissors sort of thing without the rock, paper, scissors necessarily. So I like the simplicity of it. 3 weapons and they each have their own way of bypassing cover. That's great. So no weapon has a distinct advantage over another. It's just a different way to go about it. So right now, I mean, I can see myself having fun with some smart weapons for sure, but I think I'm going to be a tech guy because railguns and punching through walls. Okay, so they also made a small note on progression. I believe the question was asked, how do you meld RPG elements with the gunplay? The answer they gave was very light on, and they pretty much just didn't answer the question at all. All they said was that you're going to start off a small-time merc, and you're going to end up being a legend. So you're going to be able to like increase fire rate and reload speed and etc. and so on. So stat upgrades, I guess, as you go along. We still don't know anything about skills. I think we still don't have any information on exactly how character progression works, so I guess we're gonna wait for another Night City Wire for that, but you best believe I'm gonna be covering that one, because I'm very interested in that. So how do you get weapons? You buy them, of course. They said that the best weapons are going to be drops from enemies, and also loot caches. They've got common, uncommon, rare, and legendary, and this I really, really like. The legendary weapons they're unique weapons, it seems, but like very, very unique. So you might have to actually make sacrifices, make hard choices to get certain legendary weapons. It seems like maybe legendary weapons are not like randomized at all. They're possibly like placed in the world, like they're actually legendary, which is great. The example they gave is you might have to kill a specific character to get a legendary weapon, but you might not want to kill that character because you like them so much. So this means that you actually might have to sacrifice non-hostile NPCs, friends, guys you're working for, or characters you befriended, I don't know, in order to get a legendary weapon. Yo, that's very cool. I'm going galaxy brain right now. How else could we do it? Could we steal from them? Would we risk our standing with them? Would we risk our friendship? Would we lock off the ability to get missions from a fixer, for example, if we go in and steal their weapon? I mean, that's some cool shit. I'm into that. I'm very much into this. And then lastly, they mention weapon mods. So you've got 2 types of mods. You've got software mods, which are non-visible stat adjustments and upgrades. So it's like putting a chip into your gun. And they said that it can fundamentally change the way a weapon works. So it might change like the projectile type or something like that. I'd like to know more information about that, more possibilities on exactly what we can change by adding a software mod. There's also attachments, so scopes, silencers. Scopes and silencers, I think, were the only two examples they gave. Will we be able to attach more, you know? Like I said earlier on, they showed that blown up view of the guns coming apart and all those individual pieces. Can you attach a different barrel or something? Maybe not. They didn't mention that you could. Maybe it doesn't count as an attachment. Maybe it does. We don't know yet. All we know for certain is there's going to be scopes and silencers, and they are visually represented on the gun model, which is great. And of course, there's also melee weapons, which they didn't go into too much detail about. They're just talking about guns right now. Melee, I mean, what can you say about melee? It's got to feel good, right? The gunplay has to feel good too, but I think it's more often than not, games will get gunplay right and they'll get melee wrong. So hopefully melee feels weighty and it doesn't feel too mechanical, like attack and then block. You know, I want it to feel like it's got some like analog weight to it. You know what I mean? Like it's not just light attack, power attack, and block, and those are the only animations you have. Give me something else, you know? So we don't know anything more about that just yet. It's a wait and see situation, but hopefully melee feels good. So there you go. That's Night City Wire episode 2. Let me know if there's anything you think I missed, anything that really jumped out at you that you find really exciting, or maybe something you're concerned about. On the whole, my early opinion still stands. I think this is going to feel like a sci-fi cyberpunk Grand Theft Auto, but, you know, more of an RPG, of course, because we can actually create our character and we have some choices. We're not playing pre-made characters, but I think the game world might feel a little bit Grand Theft Auto-ish, which is cool. That's not a bad thing. I'm excited for that. I'm also a little bit torn because I trust CD Projekt Red. I love The Witcher 3. I feel like they gave their heart and soul to that game, so I trust that they're going to do the same here. I mean, they've had so long to work on this thing, I almost can't believe that they would botch it. That being said, there's also part of me that's going like, this is too good to be true. So we'll see. Hey, maybe it's one of those times where it's too good to be true and it ends up being true and we're all pogged out of our friggin' gourds as a result. So let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. But for the moment, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to gently caress that like button. Be excellent to each other. And I'll see you next time. Ricky Summer, out.